Abel Cooper had never believed in magic. Not once in his 17 years of life. He believed in hard work, in school schedules, in lunch breaks and video games. He believed in the sound of his mother's car pulling up after her long shift at the hospital. He believed in the ticking of the old clock in his father's garage, the one that stopped working years ago but no one had the heart to throw away. What he didn't believe in was fairy tales, wizards, or other worlds, but all of that changed on a cold Thursday evening in November. Abel had taken the long way home from school, cutting through Whitmore Woods. It was a quiet place, lined with crooked trees and the scent of pine and wet earth. He often walked there when he needed to think. Lately, he needed to think a lot. His grades were dropping. His best friend, Kyle, had started hanging out with some new kids and barely spoke to him anymore. And at home, things weren't great either. His parents didn't fight exactly, but they didn't laugh much anymore either. That day, the sky was gray, and the air was sharp with the coming winter. Abel wrapped his hoodie tighter around him as he stepped over a log and followed the narrow path deeper into the woods. Then it happened. The ground beneath his feet gave way. He didn't have time to scream. One moment, he was standing on solid earth. The next, the forest was spinning above him as he tumbled into a dark hole. His arms flailed, grabbing at air and dirt and roots, but there was nothing to stop the fall. The world became a blur of shadows and wind until finally he hit something hard. Abel groaned. His head spun. Everything was silent except for the soft dripping of water somewhere nearby. When he opened his eyes, he wasn't in Whitmore Woods anymore. He was in a cave. The walls glowed faintly with blue moss. Strange symbols were carved into the stone. A warm, golden light flickered from a torch stuck into the wall. The air smelled different, sweet, like honey and old books. Abel slowly got to his feet, brushing off dust and bits of rock from his jeans. What is this place? He whispered. Then he heard it, footsteps, light and quick, echoing through the cave. Abel froze. Out of the shadows stepped a girl. She looked about his age, with long blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. She wore strange clothes like something from a fantasy movie. A leather tunic, brown boots, a green scarf tied around her arm. She saw him and frowned. "You're not from here," she said. Abel stared at her. "Excuse me." She took a cautious step forward. "You came through the rift, didn't you? The hole in the ground, the crack between worlds." Abel blinked. "The what?" The girl narrowed her eyes. "You're from the other world, Earth, right?" Now Abel felt like the air had been knocked out of him. "How do you know that?" The girl didn't answer. Instead, she turned around. "Come with me. The others need to see this." "Wait," Abel called. "Where am I?" She looked back at him. "You're in Elyra, and you're not supposed to be here." Abel didn't know what else to do, so he followed her. The cave opened up into a massive chamber, lit by torches and lanterns. Dozens of people moved around, men in armor, women in robes, a boy with a sword taller than he was. They all looked at Abel with a mix of fear and curiosity. "This is him?" asked a tall man with a long beard. His voice was deep and commanding. "The one from the other world?" The girl nodded. "He fell through the rift." The bearded man stepped closer. "What is your name, boy?" "Abel. Abel Cooper." The man studied him. "I am Thorne, guardian of the circle." "And you? You are in danger." Abel laughed nervously. "Danger? I literally just fell into a hole. I don't even know what's going on." Thorne frowned. "The rift is not a simple hole. It is a tear between our worlds. It appears only once every 100 years, and it never opens by mistake. So why did it open for me?" Abel asked, his voice cracking. A new voice spoke, soft and filled with worry. "Because the prophecy has begun." Everyone turned. A woman walked into the chamber. She wore a cloak of deep blue and held a staff carved with silver leaves. Her hair was white like snow, though her face looked young. Abel took a step back. "Who are you?" "I am Elyra, seer of the East," she said. "And you, Abel Cooper, have a great destiny here in Elyra. A destiny you cannot run from." Abel shook his head. No, 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 this is a mistake. I'm nobody. I don't even get straight A's. I'm not a hero. Elyra walked up to him and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. The heroes of our world rarely begin as heroes. They become them through trials, through choices. You were brought here for a reason. I want to go home, Abel said quietly. Thorne sighed. The only way to return is to close the rift, but it will not close until the prophecy is fulfilled. Abel looked around at the strange faces, the glowing cave walls, the weapons and magic. He still half believed he was dreaming. Maybe he had hit his head and passed out, but deep inside, something told him this was real. Fine, he said. Tell me what I have to do. Elyra's eyes softened. The Shadow King has risen. He threatens to consume our world in darkness. The prophecy speaks of a stranger from another realm who will stand against him. Abel swallowed hard. And you think that's me? We don't just think, Thorne said. We know. The girl who had found him stepped forward again. My name's Mira, she said. If you're really the one from the prophecy, you won't survive alone. Abel looked at her. So you're going to help me? I don't like you, Mira said plainly, but I don't want Elyra to fall. So yes, I'll help you. And just like that, Abel's life was no longer his own. He had fallen into another world, a world of magic and danger and prophecy. And whether he liked it or not, he had a part to play. Far above them, in the world he once knew, the sky grew darker. The rift had closed behind him, but ahead, in the land of Elyra, his true journey had just begun. Abel had never ridden a horse before, so when Mira handed him the reins of a large brown stallion named Thornbite, he looked at her like she had asked him to fly to the moon. You're joking, right? He asked. Nope, she replied, swinging onto her own horse with ease. It's a 2-day ride to Elderglen, and we don't have time to wait for you to learn slowly. Just hold tight and don't fall off. Thorne, the old warrior, had already mounted his steed. Elyra stood beside them, the hood of her cloak pulled over her snow-white hair. Around them, other riders and warriors prepared to leave the circle, the hidden cave where Abel had first arrived. It was early morning now, and the light outside the cave sparkled on the dew-covered grass. Abel looked at Thornbite. The horse snorted and shook its head. This thing doesn't like me, he said. Smart horse, Mira muttered. With some help and a very ungraceful jump, Abel finally managed to climb onto Thornbite's back. He nearly slid off the other side, but Mira reached out and steadied him. He didn't say thank you. She didn't expect him to. The group set off down a narrow forest trail. Towering trees surrounded them on both sides, their golden autumn leaves fluttering in the wind. Birds chirped high above, and the world smelled of earth and moss. Abel felt like he had stepped into one of those old fantasy novels his dad used to read, but this wasn't a story. It was his life now. Why are we going to Elderglen? He asked after a while. Mira, riding beside him, answered without looking his way. Because that's where the runestone is, Abel frowned. Runestone, it's the first key to the prophecy, Thorne called from ahead. The stone will guide us to the other relics. Relics? Keys? Prophecies? Abel shook his head. This is too much. I don't even know how to fight. I don't know magic. I'm just a normal kid. Elyra's voice floated back to him. No one is ever truly normal, Abel. Not when they are chosen. They rode in silence after that. The first day passed slowly. Abel's legs ached from riding, his back was sore, and every time Thornbite moved, he was sure he was going to fall. Mira never complained once. She moved like someone who had grown up in the saddle. Her eyes were always scanning the woods, her hand resting on the hilt of a short sword at her hip. They camped near a river that night. The stars above Elyra were brighter than anything Abel had seen back home. A strange purple moon hung in the sky, casting a soft glow over the trees. Around the fire, Thorne cooked something that smelled like burnt leather but tasted surprisingly okay. Elyra sat quietly, her staff resting beside her. Abel finally worked up the courage to ask, "Why me?" She looked at him with gentle eyes. Because you are from a world untouched by our magic. Your soul is still whole, not broken by war or fear. Abel frowned. That makes no sense. Maybe. Not now, Elyra said. But one day, it will. Later that night, Abel couldn't sleep. He sat near the river, watching the water rush over smooth stones. Mira joined him, sitting a few feet away. She didn't say anything at first. Then she asked, "Do you miss your home?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, a lot. I would too." He looked at her. "What's your story? How did you end up in all this?" She shrugged. "I was born into it. My parents were fighters. Both of them died in the first war with the Shadow King. I've been training ever since." Abel was quiet. "I'm sorry, don't be. Everyone loses something eventually." They didn't talk much after that, but for the first time, Abel felt a little less alone. The next morning, they set out again. Around noon, the forest began to thin, and the ground turned rocky. In the distance, Abel saw smoke rising from chimneys and rooftops nestled among trees. Elyndor, the town looked like something out of a painting. Cobblestone paths, wooden houses with moss on their roofs, little gardens filled with colorful flowers. People walked through the streets carrying baskets, leading goats, or chatting near wells. As soon as the group entered, eyes turned their way. Riders from the circle. A woman whispered to her child. A blacksmith wiped his hands on his apron and nodded at Thorne. "The runestone is at the chapel. It's waiting." They left their horses at a stable, and Abel followed the others toward the center of town. A small stone chapel stood there, its stained glass windows glowing in the sunlight. Inside, it was cool and quiet. On a raised platform lay the runestone. It was about the size of a soccer ball, with ancient markings carved deep into its surface. It pulsed with a soft blue light. Elyra approached it carefully. "Only he can touch it." Abel stared. "Me? Yes," she said. "It must recognize you." Abel stepped forward. His heart pounded. His hands were shaking. He reached out and placed both palms on the stone. At first, nothing happened. Then the light inside the stone flared bright. The chapel filled with wind, though the windows were shut. The ground trembled. Symbols floated into the air, spinning around Abel like fireflies. One of them touched his forehead and vanished. And then everything stopped. The chapel was silent again. Abel fell to his knees. He felt like something ancient had passed through him, like a wave of electricity and emotion all at once. Mira rushed forward. "Are you okay?" "I think so," he whispered. "What was that?" Elyra looked amazed. "The stone has accepted you. You are the one." But before they could celebrate, a loud crash echoed outside. Shouting followed. Thorne grabbed his sword. "Stay behind me." They rushed out of the chapel. Black armored soldiers rode into Elyndor, swinging blades and knocking over market stalls. People screamed and ran. At the front of the group was a man with pale skin and eyes like ice. "The Shadow King's men," Mira growled. "They found us." Abel backed away. "I can't fight them." "You don't have to," Thorne said, blocking a sword swing with his shield. "Just stay alive." Mira fought beside him, moving fast and striking hard. Elyra stood still, her staff glowing as she summoned blasts of blue light to knock down attackers. Abel ducked behind a barrel, heart racing. Then he saw a young girl trapped in the middle of the square. A soldier raised his sword without thinking. Abel ran. He tackled the girl out of the way just as the sword struck the ground where she had been. Pain shot through his arm as he landed hard, but the girl was safe. The soldier raised his sword again. Abel closed his eyes, but the sword never came down. A burst of white light exploded from Abel's chest, knocking the soldier across the square. Everyone stopped and stared, even the Shadow King's men. Elyra looked stunned. "He's awakened." The soldiers retreated, dragging their wounded with them. Abel stood in the center of the square, breathing hard. The girl clung to his arm, shaking. What just happened?" he asked. "You used your gift," Elyra said softly. "I don't have magic." "You didn't. But now you do." Mira walked up to him. Her eyes were wide, but not with anger this time. With something like respect. You're not just some lost kid, are you? Abel didn't answer, because he didn't know who or what he was anymore. All he knew was that his life had changed forever. And there was no going back. Not now, not ever. The next morning in Elderglen, the town was quieter than usual. Smoke still drifted from burned stalls, and broken crates lay scattered across the cobblestones. Children stayed indoors. Traders whispered nervously. Everyone had seen what happened. How the boy from another world had released a light from within himself that no one understood. Abel sat on the edge of a stone well in the village square, staring at the runestone in his hands. It had stopped glowing, but the warmth in it remained. Every few minutes, he turned it in his palms, tracing the ancient carvings like they might whisper answers if he touched them long enough. I don't want this, he whispered to no one. I didn't ask for this. Mira walked up and tossed him an apple. Then maybe it's time to stop whining and start figuring out why you have it. He frowned at her. You don't understand. No, she said. I don't, but you're here now, and pretending this isn't happening won't help. Thorne approached them, armor clinking softly. We ride at noon. Where to? Now? Abel asked. To the archives, Thorne said. It's the only place that might have answers about what's inside you. Abel didn't reply. He just looked at the apple in his hand. They left Elderglen shortly after, riding east. The path took them through fields of golden grass and along ridges where the wind howled like distant wolves. Elyra rode beside Abel, her expression calm as always. You used light magic, she said. I didn't mean to. Most first awakenings happen in fear. It shows your heart is alive. You saved that girl. Abel looked at her. But what is light magic? Elyra took a slow breath. It is the rarest kind, not born from the earth or fire or wind but from the soul. It reveals truth, it protects, and it can destroy, but only if the heart is strong enough. I don't feel strong, Abel said. True strength often hides beneath fear. They rode until sunset and made camp near an abandoned windmill. Mira caught rabbits for dinner. Thorne sharpened his blade. Elyra traced symbols in the dirt. Near the fire, whispering in a language Abel couldn't understand. Later, as the stars appeared, Mira sat beside Abel. For once, she didn't seem annoyed with him. I used to come here with my mother, she said softly, nodding at the windmill. Before the war, Abel looked at her. You said she died? She was a swordmaster. She fought the Shadow King's army when they first attacked the southern villages. She never came back. I'm sorry. She'd be angry if she saw me crying, Mira said, brushing her eyes. She always said, tears won't sharpen your blade. They sat in silence for a moment. Do you ever wish you could go back? Abel asked. Before all of this? Sometimes, but wishing won't change it. We move forward. That's what living means. The next morning, they reached the archives. Abel had imagined something like a big library. He was wrong. The archives were built into the side of a mountain, with stone stairs leading into the dark. Dozens of crystal lanterns lit the entrance. Guards wearing silver cloaks stood outside, weapons ready. These are the lorekeepers, Thorne explained. They protect ancient knowledge. One of the guards, a young man with sharp eyes and pale blonde hair, stepped forward. Who seeks entry? Elyra raised her staff. We come with the chosen one. The guard stepped aside immediately. Inside, the mountain opened into a vast hall filled with towering shelves carved from stone. Scrolls, books, and glass containers lined every wall. In the center of the room stood an old man in gray robes. His beard reached his chest, and his eyes were cloudy with age. Elyra, he said, voice crackling like dry leaves. It has been long, Keeper Aldrich, she greeted. We need your wisdom. The old man looked at Abel. So this is the boy who carries the light, Abel swallowed. I didn't mean to. It just happened. Magic does not happen by accident, Aldrich said. Especially not light magic. Come. He led them down a hallway filled with strange objects, floating candles, maps that moved, and a stone sphere that pulsed when Abel passed it. Finally, they reached a chamber. Lit by a single green flame, Eldrick motioned to a circle carved into the floor, placed the runestone in the center. Abel obeyed. The floor glowed and the walls shifted. Images danced in the air: a dark tower, a man with burning eyes, a battlefield lit by lightning. Then a symbol appeared, a sun inside a broken crown. Elyra gasped. "What is it?" Mira asked. Eldrick whispered, "The mark of the Sunborn." Thorne stepped forward. "That's impossible. The Sunborn died out 1,000 years ago." "Maybe not," Eldrick said. He turned to Abel. "Your blood is not just human. Somewhere in your line, a Sunborn lived. That light inside you, it is their gift." Abel's head spun. "What does that mean?" "It means," Elyra said slowly, "you are not only the chosen one. You are a descendant of the ancient guardians, the last of their line." Thorne shook his head. "Then the prophecy is true," Eldrick nodded. "And time is shorter than we thought. If the Shadow King learns who the boy is, he will stop at nothing to destroy him." A deep silence followed, then a sound echoed through the archives. Screams. The ground shook. A guard rushed into the room. "They're here! Shadow soldiers!" Thorne drew his sword. "How did they find us?" Elyra answered grimly. "The runestone. Its light has a cost. It calls to power both good and evil." Abel backed toward the wall, panic rising. "We have to leave." "No," Eldrick said. "You must go deeper." He pointed to a hidden stairwell behind a bookcase. "That path leads to the underground stream. Follow it to the outside. I will hold them here." "You'll die," Mira said. The old man smiled sadly. "I've lived enough years. Now go." Abel hesitated, but Elyra grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the stairwell. Mira and Thorne followed. They ran through the narrow tunnel, the sounds of battle echoing behind them, clashing swords, blasts of magic, cries of pain. Finally, they reached the stream. A narrow wooden boat floated there. "Get in," Thorne ordered. Abel climbed in, heart pounding. Mira untied the rope. Elyra lifted her staff and whispered a spell. The boat surged forward, carried by the stream. As they floated away, Abel looked back one last time. Smoke filled the tunnel. Eldrick was gone. They traveled in silence for hours. The tunnel eventually opened into the forest again, far from the archives. They set up camp under a large willow tree. Abel sat near the fire, too tired to speak. Elyra knelt beside him. "You have every right to be afraid. I didn't want anyone to die," he whispered. "I didn't ask for this. No hero ever does," she said. "But Eldrick didn't die because of you. He died protecting hope." Mira handed Abel a cup of warm tea. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we head north to the Tower of Mirrors," Thorne said. "Where the second relic waits." Abel nodded slowly. He didn't know what waited for them. He didn't know if he would live or fail, but something deep inside had begun to change. The fear was still there, but now there was something else beside it, courage. And that, he was starting to learn, was how legends were born. The wind grew colder as they moved north. Trees thinned, grass turned to ice-crusted dirt. The sun, once warm and golden, now looked pale and distant, like it no longer had the strength to shine. Abel wrapped his cloak tighter around himself. As he followed the others up the narrow mountain path, he was no longer just a boy from another world. Not anymore. He had light inside him, he had enemies chasing him, and he had a purpose, whether he liked it or not. For 2 days, they traveled through the Frostback Mountains. The journey was quiet but tense. Abel could feel it in the way Thorne held his sword even when they camped, and in how Elyra kept checking the wind for whispers of dark magic. Mira barely spoke, but when she did, her voice was sharper than before. Less teasing, more focused. At night, they slept in caves or behind thick stone outcrops. The stars seemed colder here, more distant. Even the moon looked smaller. One morning, just as the sun started rising, they saw it, the Tower of Mirrors. It stood alone on a high ridge, made of smooth black stone that caught the light and reflected it like glass. It shimmered as if it wasn't entirely solid, like a dream halfway between being and vanishing. The door was tall and arched, sealed shut with glowing runes. Abel stared up at it, mouth dry. That's it, Mira said. According to legend, the second relic, the mirror shard, is hidden inside. Thorne stepped forward. This tower is older than any kingdom in Elyra. Some say it was built by the Sky People. Sky People? Abel asked. Beings of magic, Elyra explained. Long gone, but their secrets remain. They approached the door. As soon as Abel stepped onto the stone platform, the runes on the door began to glow brighter. A sound like chimes filled the air. The door opened slowly, dust falling from its frame. Elyra looked at him. Only you can open it. The tower knows who you are. Inside, the air was still and cool. The walls were mirrors floor to ceiling, reflecting not just the group, but strange versions of them. In one reflection, Abel looked older, dressed in armor, a crown on his head. In another, he was alone in a burned world. I don't like this, Mira whispered. It's a place of visions, Elyra said. Not all of them true. Be careful what you trust. They moved carefully, their footsteps echoing. Every step revealed new reflections, some beautiful, some terrifying. Abel saw one where his parents were calling his name, reaching for him. He nearly ran toward it. Mira grabbed his arm. It's not real, I know, he whispered, though part of him still wanted to believe. The deeper they went, the more the tower seemed to twist. Stairs that led nowhere, doors that opened into darkness. Time felt strange to fast and too slow at once. Then they found it, a round chamber with a pedestal in the center. Upon it, a mirror shard floated in the air, spinning slowly. It glowed with soft silver light, but something was wrong. Abel stepped into the room, and the mirrors all around them suddenly turned black. The door behind them slammed shut. A voice echoed, "So, the child of light comes." A shadow formed on the opposite wall. It wasn't a person, it was a shape, tall and robed, with glowing red eyes and smoke swirling from its body. The Shadow King, Elyra whispered. Abel stepped back. He's here? No. Thorne growled, drawing his sword. This is a piece of him, a projection. The shadow laughed. Brave for mortals, but foolish. This tower bends to me now. You should have stayed in your own world, Abel Cooper. I'm not going anywhere, Abel said, surprising even himself. The shadow moved closer. Take the shard, and you take your first step into my war. Are you ready to lose everyone you care about? Abel clenched his fists. I didn't come here to lose, then fight. The shadow hissed, vanishing. The mirrors shattered. From the pieces rose twisted reflections, mirror versions of Abel, Mira, and Thorne. They looked like them but moved wrong, jerky, soulless, cold. The fight began. Thorne charged at his copy, their swords clashing with thunderous force. Mira faced her twin with fire in her eyes, moving fast and furious. Elyra raised her staff, casting shields to protect them. Abel was left with his own mirror version. It stared at him with empty eyes. You're weak, it said. I'm not, Abel replied. You're scared. I am, Abel said. But I won't run. He lifted his hands. The light burst out, not as wild as before but controlled. Focused. The mirror double screamed as the light hit it. It cracked, then shattered into dust. Abel turned, heart racing, and saw Mira knock her double to the ground with a fierce blow. Thorne's mirror self collapsed moments later. The room grew still. The shard hovered untouched. Abel walked up to it. It was beautiful, shining like frozen moonlight, humming with power. As soon as he touched it, warmth spread through his chest. A vision filled his mind, a forest burning, a mountain torn in half, and a throne of bones. Then the vision faded, and the shard dimmed. Elyra stepped forward. What did you see? Destruction, Abel said quietly. He's getting stronger, Thorne nodded grimly. Then we must move faster. The tower began to shake. Mira grabbed Abel's hand. Time to go. They raced back through the halls. This time, the mirrors didn't show anything. They were just glass cracked and dead. Outside, the sky had turned gray, and snow had begun to fall. They rode down the mountain in silence, the weight of what they had seen heavy on all of them. That night, they camped in a hidden grove near a frozen lake. Abel sat with the shard in his lap, watching it flicker with faint light. Mira sat beside him. "You did well today. Thanks. You're changing. I feel it," he said. "I just hope it's fast enough." Mira looked at the stars. "It has to be." Elyra came over and joined them. "The final relic lies far to the west in the ruins of Solmir, but we will not be alone on that path. Others will come to stop us. Let them come," Abel said quietly. "I'm not afraid anymore," and for the first time since falling into Elyra, he meant it, because inside the boy from another world, the light was growing, and the Shadow King wherever he was could feel it too. The ruins of Solmir were nothing like Abel had imagined. He expected broken towers, old stones, maybe a few faded statues. But what stood before them was a wasteland of silence and sorrow. Ash coated the earth like snow. Crumbled buildings stretched toward the sky like the hands of fallen giants. The wind that blew through the broken streets carried only the sound of ghosts. No birds, no animals, no life, just the ruins of what had once been Elyra's greatest city. "This used to be the heart of magic," Elyra whispered as they entered the city gates. "Before the Shadow King destroyed it in the First War." Abel stared at the scorched walls and shattered arches. "There's nothing left." "Not true," Thorne said. "The third relic is still here, hidden beneath the Hall of Voices." They walked deeper into the ruins. Mira's hand never left the hilt of her sword. Elyra's eyes scanned the empty windows above. Abel kept close to them, heart pounding with every step. It felt like the shadows were watching. Finally, they reached the Hall of Voices, a wide circular plaza surrounded by columns. In the center stood a broken statue of a woman with outstretched arms. Beneath her feet, a stairway led into the earth. Abel felt the pull of the relic. It called to him like a whisper in his bones. He stepped forward. Suddenly, the air shifted. A black spear flew from the shadows. Thorne blocked it with his shield. The sound echoed like thunder. Figures appeared, dozens of them. Shadow soldiers, dressed in dark armor, eyes glowing red, blades drawn, and leading them Abel's breath caught. A tall figure on a black horse, cloaked in smoke and flame, eyes like burning coals, crown of twisted iron on his head. "The Shadow King, finally," he said, voice deep and hollow. "The light comes to me." Abel froze. This was no projection, no dream. This was him, the real enemy, the one from the visions. Thorne stepped forward, sword drawn. "You won't touch the boy." "I don't need to," the Shadow King said. "He will come to me. The light in him, it longs for purpose. I can give it to him." "Lies," Elyra spat. "You only bring death." "You call it death," the Shadow King said. "I call it peace. End the war. End the suffering. All I want is the relic." "Give it to me, Abel." Abel looked at the relic shard he carried in his pack, then at his friends, Mira, Thorne, Elyra. They had risked everything to protect him. He stepped back. "You can't have it, then you'll die with them," the Shadow King said. He raised his hand. Darkness rushed forward like a wave. Thorne leapt in front, shield glowing with runes. Elyra shouted a spell, her staff blazing. Mira charged the soldiers, blade flashing in the gloom. Abel turned and ran down the stairs beneath the statue. The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. He reached the lowest chamber, a round stone room lit by faint blue fire. In the center floated the last relic, a pendant, shaped like a tear. Inside it, a tiny light pulsed, steady and bright. Abel stepped toward it. As he touched it, time slowed. A voice filled the chamber, not loud, not deep but gentle. "Child of two worlds," it said. "You hold the light of old. Will you use it?" Abel whispered, "I'm afraid. Fear is not weakness. Fear is the gate you must pass through." Abel saw flashes. His mother, laughing in the kitchen back home. His father, fixing a bike. In the garage, Kyle, his old best friend, waving at him on the school steps. And Mira, helping him up. Thorne, protecting him. Elyra, guiding him. He wasn't just from one world anymore, he belonged to both. I will, he said. I'll fight. The pendant lit up blinding and brilliant energy surged through him. His veins burned with light. He rose from the ground, the relics glowing at his chest. He wasn't just Abel anymore, he was the Sunborn. He burst from the chamber in a wave of white fire. The Shadow King turned just as the light hit him. It wasn't fire, it wasn't force, it was truth. The darkness screamed. Soldiers fell back, blinded. Mira covered her eyes. Elyra stepped aside, letting the light pass. Abel walked into the center of the plaza. The Shadow King raised his hand again, but this time, nothing happened. The darkness recoiled from Abel's glow. I'm not yours, Abel said. The Shadow King screamed. His form cracked. Smoke bled from his crown. His shape twisted. His voice broke apart like glass. No, he howled. You are only a boy. I am, Abel said, but I am enough. With that, the three relics rose into the air, the runestone, the mirror shard, the light pendant. They spun together, faster and faster, until they became a single point of light so bright it silenced the sky. A beam shot upward, the clouds parted, and in that moment, the darkness was gone. The Shadow King collapsed into ash, his army scattered like leaves in the wind. The silence after was heavier than any sound. Abel sank to his knees. The relics floated gently back down and dimmed. Elyra knelt beside him. It is done. Mira stood at the edge of the plaza, sword in hand, face pale. You did it, Thorne nodded. You were the one, after all. Abel looked at them. But I'm still just me. That's what saved us, Elyra said. Not magic, not prophecy. You. The journey back took a week. Along the way, word spread. The Boy of Light had defeated the Shadow King. The rift between worlds began to close again, but slowly. Elyra said it would stay open for a little while longer, enough time for Abel to decide. One evening, Mira sat beside him on a hill. You're leaving soon, she said. I think so, Abel replied. My parents. I miss them. Mira looked down. I'll miss you, he smiled. I'll come back. I promise. They sat together until the stars came out. On the final day, Elyra led him to the portal at the edge of the world. It shimmered like water, standing between two stone pillars. Will they believe me back home? He asked. Maybe not, she said. But they will feel that something has changed. Thorne shook his hand. You were a warrior, Abel. Don't forget that. Mira hugged him tight and without words. Then, with one last look at the world that had changed him forever, Abel stepped through the rift. And just like that, he was gone, back in Whitmore Woods. The wind blew softly. Birds chirped. The world was as it had been, but Abel was not. He stood under the trees, hand in his pocket, the light pendant still glowing faintly. Somewhere deep in his heart, Elyra still whispered, and if ever the light was needed again, he would be ready.